This is written to support our search for Filipinos with an inventor's mind. Please contact us through this Facebook name, Inventor's Mind, or cell number 0956102568. This is an interview of one of the retired military officer. He is observed to have an inventor's mind. The person who has an inventor's mind always experiment or tinker on many things to create new methods, new ideas, new tools, new equipments, and new products. There are countries that are more prosperous than other countries because their culture unwittingly encourage and support the people with an inventor's mind, such as Germany or Japan, who produce advanced tools, equipment, and products. They have a higher economic wealth compared to other countries around them. This retired military officer has a suggestion on how we can improve the economy of our country. How our country can gradually move forward from an agricultural economy to an industrialized economy. In the first pages of this interview are his suggestions and proposals. In the last pages is an analysis on how he came up with this suggestion. It is an analysis of his life while studying in elementary, high school, and in college. He said that the people with an inventor's mind can greatly help improve the economic condition of our country if managed by our government effectively. He said that we must make the people with an inventor's mind feel how important they are to the country and that all the support should be given to them as they work on their inventions. These people with an inventor's mind are the people who no longer have to do costly research in the frontier of science. They simply study new technologies already discovered. Study this and see how this can be used and applied to improve existing or new gadgets and machines. According to this retired military officer, if some of our countrymen and women who has an inventor's mind show in public and to our government their inventions, our government must provide the necessary support. Our government must have an evaluation board composed of experts to evaluate this new invention in terms of valuability, return of investment, market potential, not only in the local market but in the world market. If it has a potential market, our government must support fully and create a manufacturing companies for this invention. New products, new tools, innovative equipment can create demand not only in the local market but in the world market. This will not only increase our export income, but the manufacturing factories created will increase our country's employment. If our government in the past supported fully and created a manufacturing companies for Filipino inventors, such as the inventor of the fluorescent light tube, the incubator, the karaoke, moon buggy, the antibiotic, and many others, you can imagine how much economic wealth our country should have accumulated. Our government must subsidize the cost of patenting these inventions, not only locally but also worldwide. To prevent this invention to be manufactured by other countries, Filipino inventions do not have enough resources to patent their invention. The only way they could do this is with government support. It is already proven in the past that there are Filipinos inventions manufactured and produced by other countries. Since market potential and commercial viability are very important, the government must support Filipino inventors from the drawing board to actual implementation and to production and all the way to marketing. Our government must have a system of detecting among our young people who has an inventor's mind and provide them with the needed free education. For sure, our country has many people with an inventor's mind. The people of our country is a mixture of blood from different races. It is definitely a mixture of different DNA. This retired military officer that we interviewed studied and dreamed to be an engineer and become an inventor and a scientist. However, due to the circumstances beyond his control, he ended up taking the entrance exam of the POP flying school. Since he was already in the flying school, studying to be a pilot, he used his having an inventor's mind to become one of the best pilots and a daredevil pilot of the Philippine Air Force. This is a true story. This is the story of the life of retired Colonel Benambalong of the Philippine Air Force. I interviewed not only Colonel Benambalong but also other people who knew him. I interviewed also his classmates in high school and in a college and in the pop flying school. He was always the number one in his class during in mathematics, sciences, and later in flying. He studied and dreamed to be an engineer and become an inventor and a scientist. He is a Top Gun awardee during his time. During dive bombing, his bombs is always the closest to the target, and during gunnery, he has more bullets that hit the target. He grew up in the province of Lanao del Norte. When he was in elementary, it was already observed that he has an inventor's mind. He makes his own toys, toys that move by itself because of a rewinding coil. Even his classmates in elementary wanted to buy toys from him. In school, he is always on the top of the class in mathematics and sciences. His teachers told his father that Ben Ambalong is a brilliant student and he should be enrolled in a good school. His father enrolled him in a LaSalle Academy in Iligan City. In LaSalle, he always joined his teacher, a LaSalle brother, doing experiment on something in the school laboratory. Even at home, his mother always knocked at the door of his room, telling him to go to sleep because it is past midnight already. When asked, "What are you doing?" he said that he is assembling a gadget that can be a new method of doing things, such as a small X-ray machine. In school, during examination in subject that has to be with mathematics and algebra, he completed the answer in just 10 minutes. Since he passed it to his teacher immediately, his teacher will check it and announce to the class, "Ambalong got it 100% already." The word "Ambalong got it" became a common word that his classmates sometimes jokingly say it. He is a person who don't care about school awards. When he was asked why his English subject has a low grade, he simply said he no longer have time for the subject English. He need to devote most of his time to read and study in mathematics and sciences. He said, anyway, many scientists and inventors in Europe do not even know English. There are times that he forgot to pass any homework in English subject. That is the reason why he graduated high school as the number 3 of the class only. He did not get the award of valedictorian nor accelerated to the next class. Again, due to the advice of his teachers, the father of Ben Ambalong enrolled him in the University of San Carlos in Cebu City. This is the best university that his father can afford. Universities in Manila are already very far from Iligan City. His father accompanied him to Cebu City and looked for a good enough boarding house. The habit and routine of Benham Balong in studying in San Carlos University is the same on what he did in La Salle Academy. He always joined his teacher, a Jesuit priest, in laboratories conducting research. He spent most of his time in the library reading books in mathematics and sciences. The book he reads are very much advanced than the books the school requires. In San Carlos, the day before any periodical exam, he usually spent his time playing billiard in a cafeteria in front of the school. It was because during the time the billiard tables are empty. It is easy for him to play. No one is playing. One of his classmates, who happened to pass by, asked him why he is playing billiard when there is a periodical exam tomorrow. Instead of answering, he simply said, "Why don't you play billiard with me? Tomorrow for sure you will get 100 in your exam." His classmate, knowing that Ben Ambalong is the top-notcher of the class, without hesitation, play billiard with him. Their other classmate, who happened to pass by, also asked the two of them why they are playing billiard when we have a major exam tomorrow. The next day, after the exam, the two of them got 100 in the exam, while many others did not even pass the exam. In the next periodical exam, many of his classmates joined him playing billiard, and for sure, the next day, many got 100 in the exam. There was a time when the two students quarreled in front of him because the other did not pass to her the paper containing the answer of the exam. So in the next exam, Ben Ambalong made many copy of the answer. Later on, the teacher knew why many got 100 in the exam. As a punishment, Ben Ambalong was given a grade that is barely passing. Anyway, Ben Ambalong is not interested in becoming the number one in the class or receiving any award. His studies in college is only to learn more about science and technologies, and it is moving forward very well. His accumulation of knowledge on new technologies and sciences are in the right direction. His thirst for knowledge in science and technologies keep him in the school library most of the time. Benambalong said that he has already in his mind what new technologies to use to improve existing gadgets and equipments. He further wants to learn more to be more precise in his plan to improve existing gadgets and equipment. He was really preparing himself to produce great invention later on. However, his studies in college was abruptly stopped. His father, passing through a school campus hallway, saw a poster, "Join the Philippine Air Force and be a jet pilot." His father convinced Ben to take the PAP entrance exam. He knows that his son can pass it. But Ben and Balong do not want to give up his dream to be an engineer and become an inventor and a scientist later on. His father had a great admiration of the military service. Most likely, that is the main reason why he wanted his son to join the Philippine Air Force. His father was recruited in the Philippine military in 1941 because of the looming attack of the Empire of Japan to the Philippines. His father was supervising a group of workers making a road in the province of Lanao del Norte. When a letter was handed to him to report to the nearest military camp, there was a rapid mobilization in the military during that time. Since he was not able to submit a college diploma, he was given a rank of sergeant. He fought with the military of the United States against the Japanese. 14th of January 1946, when his father was assigned in the Camp Kentley in Marawi City, Ben Ambalong was born. Considering that during that time there were still a remnants of Japanese periodically attacking military camps, Ben Ambalong was born in a foxhole. Ben was born exactly when a grenade exploded nearby. It was because of this incident that the father of Benambalong and many of those in the foxhole has developed a belief that Benambalong was a promising future in the military and will become somebody someday. During the war, the father of Benambalong developed a great admiration of the military service. After the war, his father stayed in military service despite the prospect of having a higher salary in the private sectors. This could be the reason why he wanted his son, Benambalong, to join the military, the Philippine Air Force. The father of Benambalong told his son that the military service is one of the noble ways to serve our country. Ben argued and said that being an engineer and a scientist, and especially being an inventor, he can serve our country more. His father told Ben, there are many who showed their invention but did not succeed because our government seems not to support them. You will end up just like those many inventors who has little income and sometimes they are jobless. Benambalang do not want to give up his dream of becoming an engineer, a scientist, and an inventor. However, when his father told him that the main reason why Benambalong bowed to the request of his father told Benambalong that you have many younger brothers and sisters. They will be entering college very soon. I can no longer support all of you in college. His father said that being a cadet in the Philippine Air Force, your schooling is free, and above all, you receive a salary. After 2 years of training, you will graduate and start the rank of second lieutenant. A second lieutenant today receives a salary of around 40,000 a month. Since you are a pilot, you have an additional of 50% of the salary, or an additional of 20,000 a month. This is what they call a hazard pay since you are flying an aircraft. The figure of 40,000 a month salary now is higher than the figure of the salary before, but the value of the money is approximately the same. His father said, I know you will help me with the schooling of your brothers and sisters. His father said, don't worry with your dreams of becoming an inventor. You can later on resign from the Air Force and continue with your dreams. Benambalong finally decided to take the Philippine Air Force flying school exam. However, he nearly was not able to take the exam. The night before the exam, he was uneasy thinking if he will give up his dream of becoming an inventor. So much so that he forgot to put his alarm clock. So when he woke up in his boarding house, it was already 9:30 a.m. in the morning. The exam starts at 8 a.m. He immediately went to the University of the Visayas where the exam was held. When he arrived, the one in charge of the exam told him, you are already late by 2 hours and the exam is only 3 hours. If you take the exam, it will be useless because it is impossible for you to pass the exam. However, he pleaded to the one in charge to let take the exam. He said that if he cannot take the exam, his father will be downhearted and will be mad at him. He said, it is okay even if I cannot pass as long as his father knows that he took the exam. He was finally allowed to take the exam. There were more than 5,000 who took the exam all over the Philippines. The result of the exam was published in the newspaper after 1 week. Only 100 passed the exam. Out of these, only 30 will be accepted to the flying school after a rigid physical exam. The result of the exam was published in the newspaper from highest to lowest score in the exam. Ben Ambalong was number 5 from the top. His father was happy and immediately applied for the leave of absence from his office. He proudly announced that he will accompany his son to Manila, who will enter the POP flying school and will be a military officer very soon. Benambalong, with his father, went to POP headquarters in Villamor Air Base in Manila. He passed the physical exam and was immediately brought to Fernando Air Base, where the flying school was located. At the start of the cadet training, Ben and Balong no longer have the time to read books about science and technologies. The training was rigid. They wake up very early in the morning, run many kilometers, and do many exercise. Some of his classmates say that this is maybe hazing already. Some wanted to resign from the training. Benambalang has to endure the hard training. He must not back down because his father and many around his family wants him to succeed. During his spare time, he wanted to read books in advanced mathematics and sciences. However, the only book in the flying school library that is worth for him reading are books about aircraft and aerodynamics, how an aircraft fly and how it is maneuvered. So he reads, study, and learn about this. His having an inventor's mind works very well in learning to fly. He studied why an aircraft flies and how it is controlled. He studied the aerodynamic design of the aircraft that he is flying, what could be its strengths and weaknesses. His flying instructor branded Benambalong as a born flyer. His instructor said it was easy for him to learn to fly. He was later on considered to be the number one in flying of their class. When he visited his father, who was confined in Viluna Hospital during that time, he told his father that he can fly an aircraft already and he can even make a barrel roll of the aircraft. His father jokingly said, "I think you cannot do that yet, because it was only a few months ago when you entered the FAP flying school." So he said, "Okay, so that you will believe that I can fly already, stay in this window, and more than that, I will make a barrel roll of the aircraft on top of those buildings." His father joked and said, "I don't think you can do that." Actually, Benambalong see this is an opportunity for him to get out from the FAP flying school. He knows that if he will fly very low over a hospital, he will definitely be removed from the flying school. If this will happen, he can continue with his dream of becoming an engineer and an inventor. Anyway, if he will be removed from the POP flying school, he can easily apply as a pilot of PAL. He can easily be admitted because he knows how to fly already. Also, the father of one of his classmates was the vice president of the PAL, Philippine Airlines, and PAL was recruiting pilots during that time. And also, his work as a pilot in PAL will be just fly the commercial plane for a few hours, and the rest of the day he can devote his time to study and read books in mathematics and sciences. Working in PAL is not like working in the military. In the military sometimes, one is forced to work 24 hours a day and sometimes 7 days a week if needed. Therefore, the most important in working with Paul is that he can continue with his reading and studies in mathematics and sciences. Therefore, he can continue with his dream of becoming an inventor and a scientist. And also, the salary in PAL is around 2 to 3 times higher than the salary in the PAC. So he thinks his father will even like it because he can increase the monthly support he can give to his family. And above all, if he will graduate in the PAP flying school, He will have a minimum of 8 years contract. He can only resign from the Philippine Air Force after 8 years. So one morning, he called his father in the telephone and told him to watch by the window. I will fly by that window. The father of Benambalong asked his son not to do it. He knows that if his son will fly very low in the hospital, he will be removed from the flying school. Benambalong fly very low, passing by Beluna Hospital, and made a barrel roll just few feet above the roof of the buildings. When he made another pass, there were already many people outside Beluna Hospital. After that, he fly immediately back to Fernando Air Base, where the flying school is located. Since the aircraft he flew was T-28 aircraft based on Fernando Air Base, many report was already reported to the commander of the Fernando Air Base. Since no one get clearly the aircraft tail number because the paint in the aircraft faded already, those who fly in that morning and flying the T-28 aircraft were investigated. No student pilot was investigated because it is impossible for a student pilot to do a barrel roll of the T-28 aircraft just a few feet above the buildings. One instructor has more hours of interrogation because he cannot show evidence on where he was exactly at 10 a.m. in the morning. That was the time that Benambalong went forward and said he was the one who flew over at B. Luna Hospital. So beginning that day, Benambalong was grounded. He was just waiting for a release order and leave the flying school. Nobody can believe it because he made a perfect barrel roll of the T-28 aircraft just a few feet above the buildings. A small miscalculation of the aircraft roll will end up crashing to the ground. Actually, they do not know that Benambalong has an inventor's mind. He had been studying and experimenting with the T-28 aircraft's capability. When he overheard the pilot instructors arguing that it is dangerous to make a barrel roll of the T-28 aircraft just a few feet above the buildings, Benambalang experimented on how to make a barrel roll safely. When he is flying alone, he fly on top of the clouds and make a barrel roll on the aircraft. He studied how to do it without going down into the clouds. Flying on top of Bilon Hospital and making a barrel roll on top of the buildings was an opportune time for him to prove that it can be done safely. His father regretted why he challenged his son. So early in the morning, without seeing his son, the father of Benam Balong went to the headquarters of the Philippine Air Force in Villamor Air Base. He sought audience of many senior FAP officers, including the commanding general of the FAP. He explained that it was his fault that his son fly over Beluna Hospital. He told them that he challenged his son if he can fly already an aircraft. The most of all, it is true that he can make a barrel roll on top of the buildings. The top officer in the FAP deliberated on the incidents. They maybe understand why Benambalong must show his father that he knows how to fly an aircraft already. But above all, Benambalong is an asset of the FAP. He is one of the best pilots produced by the FAP Flying School. Therefore, Benambalong was reinstated to the flying school. After graduation from the flying school, Benambalong was assigned to Basa Air Base to be a jet fighter pilot. According to his jet flight instructor, it is easy for Benambalong to learn how to fly and handle the jet fighter aircraft. During dive bombing, his bombs were the closest to the target. He also topped the air-to-air and the air-to-ground strafing. He has more bullets that hit the target. That is why he is the Top Gun awardee during his time. One of the reasons why is that during aircraft maintenance, He joined the aircraft mechanic when they aligned the aircraft sight of the guns and the bomb delivery system of the jet aircraft. His having an inventor's mind worked very well in making him the top gun in bomb delivery and gunnery. He is also very excellent in flying formation, like what is done during the plane flying exhibition. There are times that he rolled the aircraft while flying in the formation. He also does some dangerous maneuvers of the jet aircraft. Ben Abalong, having an inventor's mind, do not just accept what his jet flying instructor teach or told him. He is always challenging the notion that there are things that can be done better. He always experiments on the capability of the jet aircraft he is flying. He is often seen doing dangerous aircraft maneuver. But to him, it is not dangerous because he already analyzed and computed that it can be done safely. That is why he is branded as a daredevil pilot during his time. Like for example, he fly his jet aircraft under the bridge connecting Cebu City and Lapu-Lapu City in Mactan Island. This idea of flying under the bridge started when the jet fighter pilots assigned in Mactan Air Base argued that it is not possible for the F-5 jet aircraft to fly under the bridge. Flying under the bridge is important if they have a mission to bomb a target, and the only way to reach the target undetected by the enemy is flying very low and flying under the bridge. Benambalong simply said it can be done. If the big ship can pass through under the bridge, how much more for the jet aircraft which is smaller than a ship? So one early morning, when the sun dimly light yet, when there are few people around the bridge of Lapu-Lapu City, he fly his jet under the bridge. Only a trusted jet fighter pilot who was flying another jet aircraft in that morning saw how it was done. Only very few people have seen it. He is not after the admiration of people. He just wanted to prove that it can be done. That is a trademark of having an inventor's mind. Another instance that he does some studies and experiments is by making a mock dogfight with a more advanced jet fighter aircraft. Basa Air Base, where he is flying the F-5 jet, is just a few kilometers from the Clark Air Base. The PAP jet pilots and the USA jet pilots normally meet in the sky near the two air bases. Ben and Balong flying the F-5 jet planes sometimes challenged the USA pilots flying a more advanced jet fighter planes and a mock dogfight. Ben and Balong most of the time win, even if the USA pilots fly a more powerful jet fighter planes. Ben and Balong just wanted to experiment the F-5 jet aircraft fighting capabilities against more advanced jet aircraft. He plans to impart his knowledge to the next student pilots because the F-5 jet fighter aircraft is the only jet fighter aircraft that our government can afford to buy, while our neighboring countries are already having an advanced jet fighter aircraft. Benambalong was later on assigned as one of the jet fighter interceptor of our country. Any aircraft entering the Philippine Air Defense Identification Zone without any clearance will be intercepted for national security. Since there was no war, most of the time, they have intercepted commercial airplanes that are diverted because of bad weather most of the time. Benambalong has suggested some proposal on how to lower the cost of interception during peacetime and still maintain its effectiveness. The knowledge he can derive from these studies and experiments in flying the F-5 jet aircraft can be used to teach and train new jet pilots of the FAP later on. However, his being a jet fighter pilot ended when the engine of his aircraft stopped and he crash landed in a sugarcane field. When he encounters a jet engine flame out or the engine stop, He announced it in the radio communication with other pilots flying in the area. When the other pilots noticed that his jet aircraft is going down, they announced in the radio telling Ben and Balong to get out of the plane or bail out. They persuasively advised Ben and Balong to activate the catapult and parachute in order to leave the aircraft. It is because the A-5 jet plane is a supersonic aircraft. It flies faster than sound. That is why it has a small wings. The pilot cannot control it without an engine, especially when flying at a low speed. It cannot be glided down. The manual of this aircraft is not allowed the flying and gliding of the aircraft if the engine stops. The procedure is to activate the catapult to lift the aircraft and parachute down. Again, the inventor's mind of Balong experimented in gliding and landing this jet aircraft in the sugarcane field. According to him, he simply nosedived the jet plane to get enough speed and a precise moment raise the nose of the aircraft and land in the sugarcane field. He was successful. He landed the aircraft at the sugarcane field. However, below the leaves of the sugarcane are border of big stones. The jet plane landed successfully, but it bounced to the left and to the right because of the big boulder of stone that it hits. When the plane stopped, Balong cannot stand up. A portion of his spinal column has a crack. The sugarcane farmers who were around in the area go to him and help him to stand up and go away from the plane because a flame is moving from the tail end to the front of the plane. When they are a few meters away from the plane bursts into a large fire. Since the POP rescue helicopter is farther away, a U.S. Air Force rescue helicopter from the Clark Air Base arrived, and he was brought to the U.S. hospital in the Clark Air Base. According to U.S. jet pilot in Clark Air Base, this is the first time they heard that a pilot land a supersonic plane with a dead engine in a sugarcane field. That was the end of Balong being a jet fighter pilot because he has a broken spinal bones. When the F-5 jet aircraft is making a tight turn, it is subjected to high G pressure. The high G gravity pressure caused too much pain in his broken spinal bones. After the accident, Balong can already resign from the military service and continue with his dream of becoming a scientist and inventor. However, he stopped his college education more than 10 years already. According to him, the past progress and development of technologies left him behind already. There are many new technologies in science that he do not know. To continue with his dream, he must first enroll back to college. He decided to continue with his military service, remembering that his father said that the military service is one of the noble ways to serve our country. Since he will be managing 5 commands already, he need more knowledge in management. He enrolled in UP to study masters in management. He did this on the part-time basis only. He go to school after office hours only. He graduated the Masters in Management as a college scholar. He was assigned to command different units of the POP. He is the first to become a unit manager, not only ahead among his classmates, but also ahead of 2 classes above their class in the POP flying school. The commanding general of the Philippine Air Force noted the ability of Colonel Ben Ambalong in research. Therefore, he was assigned to be the commander of the Air Force Research and Development Center. There he planned to reorganize the POP Research Center. He planned to hire an engineer that has an inventor's mind. He planned to create an atmosphere in the POP Research Center that will guide those with an inventor's mind to be more creative. Considering that Colonel Benambalong was handling some procurement for research and logistics for the PAP, he was exposed to deal with some corrupt people in the government, both in the military and civilian leaders of our government. There are some people who called him to approve a certain procurement of which he refuses because he always do what is good for the PAP. The crucial point was when he was one of the delegates to procure aircraft for the PAP. They visited Canada, Australia, and countries with the aircraft manufacturing companies to check and test flight the aircraft these companies are selling. Some top government official called him to recommend a certain aircraft and promise a sizable under-the-table income. He refuses because he is more concerned with the PAP pilots that will be flying this aircraft later on. Corruption in the procurement of aircraft is highly probable. The temptation to corruption is very high because one aircraft is worth many millions of dollars. Remember that Lockheed scandal where no less than the Prime Minister of Japan was charged with corruption in buying an aircraft from the Lockheed Aircraft Manufacturing Company. After the change of commanding general of the Philippine Air Force, Colonel Benambalong was reassigned to the PAP units in Palawan. Colonel Benambalong, as a commander of PAP Research and Development Center, was stopped for a known reason. However, some says that most likely the reason of his reassignment to Palawan was his refusal to approve certain procurement. Which procurement? It is really hard to know which one. After weighing everything, Colonel Ambalong finally decided to resign from the military. Many advise him not because he has all the prospect of becoming a one or more star general. He has 7 years before the compulsory retirement and he had been a full colonel for quite a time already. He was advised that changes in the leadership of the PAP and the civilian government can again restore him to where he was before. But he decided to resign. He knows that if he will continue in the military, he will be dealing again with the corrupt people in the government, both in the military and civilian leaders of our country. Maybe the only way to survive, as the saying goes, if you can't lick them, join them. Or if you cannot beat them, you will be forced to join them. He analyzed that if he will be forced to join them, and if will be investigation of such procurement later on, he will be the one who will be investigated. The people who called him will not be investigated because there are no evidence to link them to the procurement. Even if he exposed their names, he will most likely suffer more of the consequences. Also, if he will continue his work as a commander of Research and Development Center, all the effort that he will be doing will become useless if he will encounter again some corrupt people in government. Binambalang decided to resign. Maybe he can serve better our country more by being a civilian than working with the government. He will try to be an inventor. If not, then he plans to help young people with an inventor's mind. The biography of Benambalong will continue as a private person. He is now working on something.